So what I'd like to do is give you a simple problem to work on. I think it's simple, but let me explain very clearly what I'm looking for. So I'm sharing my screen. I came back to the module notes. How about we actually make a new program? So File, New, Control S, and let's save this module 4. So I'm saving it into my module 4 folder, and I'm going to call it print month. Okay, so I'm going to put the comments here. Prompt user to enter a number between 1 and 12, an integer number between 1 and 12. Use a large if-elif-else block to evaluate the user input and print the name of the appropriate or the name of the corresponding month. So if the user enters a 1, you should print January. If they enter a 12, you should print December. How about else? If they don't enter any of those numbers, you say, dude, we told you to enter a 1 through 12. So I want y'all to do that. I think that's pretty clear. Hopefully everyone was listening. So I'm going to make the breakout rooms. We'll have 3 rooms, and here we go. Let's see. I want to make sure that these are, bear with me. And don't start coding yet, because I want y'all to code together. Bear with me. Cool. Here we go.
You.
What's up, Rado? You love doing this stuff.
So who wants to share? Someone quick.
I can do it if no one else wants to.
All right. I'm still trying to type everything out. So go
Oh,
ahead.
well,
Sorry.
If you want, you can do it. Go ahead. I don't mind.
Go ahead, Ibrahim.
All right, sure.
But David, what were you typing out?
The comments. I'm
Gotcha.
a slow typer. Sorry.
No, trust me, you're faster than many others.
Okay, everyone can see?
Yep.
Okay, so let's get an input.
Corresponding.
Let's call it month equals int in.
So let's try to just do the long block of if. Wait, what are we doing here? Who's typing?
I am.
Sean, okay.
I was getting a setup of the different months.
So no, but I see what you're doing, but no, let's try to just do an if statement to just say if your input equals a 1, print January. Else if it's a 2, print February. Does that make sense?
Okay. Yeah.
So hit enter. Yep. And so what does he type here? Elif. Yep. Mariam, Farha, Chloe, feel free to chime in at any point.
Mm-hmm.
You chimed in with them. That's great. Are you coding this, Mariam?
Yes.
So what was the idea, Sean? What were you thinking about with that stuff at the top?
Giving
this?
different variables to allow if they typed into 1, it would equal J, which then J would print out January. So basically as another step to what I'm doing right now.
Okay. I will be back just to make sure that's working. I'm gonna go check on the first room. Charles, you like typing. I would have copy pasted the heck out of that. I figured you would have.
I mean,
No need to. Almost done. Nicely done. Jonathan, Rebecca, Mariam, any questions? It's pretty straightforward. Printed or entered? Yeah, you entered. Cool. Nicely done. Make sure everyone in the group is cool, is okay on that.
Okay.
Jonathan, Rebecca, Mariam, okay?
I'm good.
So what's your else?
1 second. There you go.
I expected that. Okay. Nicely done. I want to bring everyone back to the main room.
All right.
And that should not be there.
And Ibrahim, if you can show your code when we go back.
Yep.
I asked Ibrahim to go ahead and show his code, his solution to this.
Y'all can see this?
We can.
Cool. So I prompted the user for an input, evaluated said input, and kindly or not so kindly reprimanded them for not following instructions if they didn't enter a valid input.
Okay. So this looks like it's going to work. Now, I will tell you, if you wanted to do this and confirm there's no way to crash your program, which, you know, that's not where we're at right now. We'll get there later because there is a way that your program could crash right now. Or scroll up. Let me see what you did. Actually, yeah.
So yeah.
So
That's-
I wouldn't even put the eval. No, it's better to use ent. But yeah, it would crash your program if they entered a string, right? And so what you could do as well, so you did it correct. I would not change your code. Later we'll learn other options of what to do. But what you could do in the, if you wanted to confirm that your program could never crash on something simple like this, you'd get rid of that entirely, and you would just put quotations around each of these things. So therefore, when they enter a 3, you're just reading it as a string. And when you're checking does month, because I know you might be thinking, if you know another language, you might be thinking, hey, that would be like in Java, dot equals. But in Python, you can check equality of strings using just equal signs, just like you do for numbers. So you would just put quotations around each of these things. So Ibrahim, do that real quick. Don't change it, but just put quotes around the 2 right here, just so it's clear what I'm saying. So if you read it as a string from the user, not as an integer, then you would just check if the month equals the string 2 as opposed to the number 2, in which case there's no way to crash your program. But that is not, I would not want you to actually make that change. But run it real quick, just so for clarity. And then enter in, did you run it? Yeah, so type down there, O-N-E, for 1, so they didn't read. Of course, that would crash your program because you're trying to convert that to an integer. But that is, your program's perfect. I would not want you to change that. I'm just showing that if someone had done it that way, that would be a way of avoiding that. Cool? Can you stop your share?
I can.
Any questions on that code at all? Participant window? Opportunity, questions? Then let us move on. So I want to talk about some of the common errors, but first let's check yourself on this one. Suppose X is 3 and Y is 2. What is the output of this code? X is 3, Y is 2. What's the output?
X is 3.
Let's follow that through. If X is 3 and Y is 2, so 3 is greater than 2, that becomes true. So we're going to enter, and we're going to look at this whole thing here, because that's all inside. All of that is inside the if. So the if was true. So we enter the if. And now we look at this inner if, excuse me. So Y is 2. Is 2 greater than 2? No. That becomes false. So we do not execute that, and we come to this else instead. And we execute the else. And again, because this else matches with this if, and we execute the else, which will print X is 3. Correct. Let me hit stop on that. X is 3. What if X is 3 and Y is 4? What gets printed?
Z is 7.
Absolutely. Z is 7 would get printed. So if X is 3, Y is 4. So is 3 greater than 2? That is true. Is 4 greater than 2? That is true. So now we will execute this. And Z is X plus Y. 3 plus 4 is 7. And we print Z is 7. And we do not execute that. So it's always important to remember what executes and what doesn't execute. And then finally, what if we said X was 1? What if X is 1? What gets printed? We don't care what Y is.
Nothing.
Nothing gets printed if X is 1. Why? Or if X is 2 and Y is 2. Because if the first thing fails, if this becomes false right here, then we do not go inside that if. This is all inside the if. And we would look for a matching else that matches up with the if. In this case, there is no matching else, and so we're really done. Okay? Hopefully that's clear. So common errors, it's dependent on the language, looking for errors with if and else, but there's all kinds of errors for newbies and for new programming students. But Python, the main error is indentation. So indentation is key, it's paramount, okay? It is central to Python. Python is able to interpret your code based off of your correct indentation. If you want a portion of your code to be executed within an if statement or within an else statement, you need that portion of code to be indented 4 spaces. And maybe if you're using some nested if and else's, if you want the statements inside those respective if and else's to be indented or to be run, you need them also to be indented. Okay, that is the main example. So the main example of an error. So here, going back to that example where we had radius of a circle and only wanting to print the radius if it was greater or equal to 0. Can someone tell me why this would be wrong? What's wrong there logically?
Area is the print is outside of the if statement, so area is not defined.
Perfect. That's actually what would happen, because logically, like here, we'll talk about why this is correct. Logically, the one on the right is correct. Why? Because we assigned radius to -20, and we only want to, if the radius is greater than 0, only then do we want to evaluate area and print it. If the radius is less than 0, we can't evaluate the area, and of course you would not want to print it. So the takeaway is that, of course, this print statement, it should be contingent on whether or not radius is greater than 0, meaning you absolutely want that print statement indented just like you want the calculation of area indented. So why is this one wrong over here on the left, this one wrong here? Because if the radius is not greater than 0, let me say that again. If the radius is not greater than 0, we don't want anything to happen. We don't want to calculate area. We don't want to print the area. But what happens here on the left side, if the radius is not greater than 0, we're still printing because of the indentation was wrong. So let's just say the radius is -20. We say on this statement, is the radius greater than 0? It's not. So we do not calculate area, which is correct. We should not have calculated it because the radius was negative. But then, because we indented wrong, Python would try to execute this print statement. And when Python executes that print statement, it's gonna say the area is, and it's gonna try to print area, but we've never actually defined area. We've never created area because area was only defined if the radius was greater or equal to 0. Okay, so you need to be very careful on your indentation, and that's how Python understands your program. Here, just another example. You could go through this one, just looking at what gets printed or not printed. I'm not going to go through that just because of time. So I want to solve one. I want to give you all a bigger problem to solve. And for clarity, let me look at the time here. What time is it on my phone? Cool, 1 o'clock. For clarity, we have not covered, again, I know some of you have done programming already in the past. We have not covered the use of Boolean or logical operators. We have not studied that. What I mean by logical operators would be if you'd studied Java, the use of 2 ands or the use of or. This is in Java or Python. We've not covered that. I'm sorry, this is in Java or C. In Python, you're going to see it's even easier. You literally just type the word and you type the word or. That might come up today in 10, 15 minutes if we have time, or that'll be for next week. But the point is we have not covered that. So on this problem here, yeah, if we had covered that, the problem that I'm going to ask you to solve right now would be so much easier to do. But I don't want you to work out that muscle. And I like to try to make the analogy to muscle groups. Like, I mean, I'm wanting you to work out a specific muscle, logical muscle on this problem of rock, paper, scissors. And the logic muscle that I'm wanting you to work out is nested if-else statements. That's the goal of this, to work out that particular muscle. If you could use and ors, this would be so much easier. And we might recode it next week with and ors. However, that's not the purpose. The purpose is to work out the muscle of nested if-else statements. So let me hit stop share real quick because I just want to be able to give you the output. Bear with me. Okay, cool. This is enough. 1 second. Let me hit print screen, paint, paste. One moment. Crop, save. So what I'm going to do in the chat window, so if all of you go to the chat window, if I can go to the chat window myself, I'm going to attach a file. It's just a picture. Okay, y'all should all have that open now. So double click that picture from the chat window and I will share my screen. So this is the problem I want us to work on. Write a program to play the famous rock, paper, scissors game with the computer. Your program should prompt the user to enter a choice for rock, paper, or scissors. The computer will then randomly choose an option and a winner will be determined. So let's think about that. Please don't start coding it because I want you to all see, like when you code it in your groups, I want you, maybe you know to code it confidently, great. Well, maybe you're the one who's going to share your screen. But if you're not so sure of how to code it, I don't want the other one who's going to share their screen to have started before you get a chance to see what they've done. So please don't start yet. So the idea is, notice here, so I give you 2 sample outputs. Here's one sample, here's another run of the program. So you can basically just say, I mean, I might put a little bit more output there if you want to make it look fancier. Please enter one of the following, like scissor is 0. Basically, you're asking the user to enter a 0, 1, or a 2. Okay, enter a 0, a 1, or a 2 for rock, paper, or scissors. Yeah, and it's horrible. The publisher called this scissor, rock, paper. Like, is anywhere in the world, does anyone call this scissor, rock, paper? I'm just curious. Like the publisher called it scissor, rock, paper, and it's horrible. So that's why this actually came from the publisher. I'll show you all my code in a minute. But regardless, you want to ask the user to enter a 0 for scissors, 1 for rock, or 2 for paper. And so just let's just assume the user enters a correct number. Okay, don't worry about what if they enter something other than that. Don't worry about that. So assume they're going to enter a 0, a 1, or a 2. So 0 is scissors, 1 is a rock, and 2 is paper. Now you need to have the computer randomly generate one of those 3 choices. How do you do that? Can someone remind all of us? How do you generate that?
Random.rand int parentheses your numbers and then another parentheses.
So random.rand int, and what are the possible numbers we want the computer to generate?
0, 2.
0, 2. So really a 0, a 1, or a 2, and we did this last time. Now, after it generates that number, we need to save it into a variable. What do y'all think is a good name to save it in?
Computer generated number.
Look at that. See, and sometimes people just want to say X or W or something because I mean, look, I'm lazy. We want to, path of least resistance, but choose good variable names, even if it's a longer name. Computer generated number. No one can give you any flack about that not being clear. That is as clear as day. Computer generated number equals, oh well, I put it in the wrong spot so you couldn't see it. But you got the idea. I'll type it again. Computer generated number equals random.rand int 0, 2. So the computer is going to generate a number using that line of code. Then you're going to scan in the user number. And then what remains is just a series of comparisons using if-else blocks and using nested if-else blocks. That's your specific request. I'm not trying to be, I don't want you to be smart if you've done other languages. I don't want you to use ands and ors. The whole purpose of this exercise is to do what? To practice nested if-else. So I hope that's clear. Let's go to the breakout rooms and see how y'all do. So make sure you double click this image in your chat so you all have access to it. So I think there's one more person still coming into this room. Who shared last time?
I did.
Sean, you shared? Okay. So Chloe or Mariam, are one of y'all able to share? Chloe, are you with us?
Yeah, I can share, but I'm not. I don't know. I'm not sure how to do it without using the logic gates. So,
No issue. That's why y'all can work on it together.
okay, let me share.
Mariam, are you with us?
Yeah.
Can you keep it unmuted and so y'all can all chat about it together? And what's nice here is, Chloe, you're going to prove to everyone that you don't have to know perfectly what you're doing to share. So let's just try to, this is a group effort, but we just wanted to have someone else each time try to code this up. Farha, are you with us?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, we're just trying to stay unmuted so everyone can help each other. So do you have a picture of this, Chloe?
Yeah, I took a picture of it on my phone.
Gotcha. Okay, so if you can just get that started by maybe getting the computer generated number printing out the prompt to the user. Yeah, I can tell you've done Java.
Oh, sorry.
Have you?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
Computer. I'll tell you the full truth. Since I am a Java programmer, it pains me to put underscores. But if you're typing in Python, you absolutely should, because that is the style guide.
Is it a capital I or a lowercase I?
It's a lowercase I.
Okay.
So that line of code is going to generate a random number between 0 and 2. Now we need to prompt the user. And then after she prompts the user, I want y'all to discuss what are the different set of options. You know, if the computer chooses, if the computer's number was 0, which you have to go look at the image and see what was 0. Choose a number between 0 and 2. And then you want to explain, though, Chloe, what each of those numbers represents to the user. So maybe you can
Oh,
put
right.
print statements above that if you want to make it look nicer. You can put paper is 0, rock is this, scissors that. Just look at the image so we can all be consistent.
It didn't save on my phone the picture, so I don't have it right now. Sorry.
Does anyone else have the picture?
No, it wasn't showing up.
Okay. Sean, Farha, did you double click the picture, either of you?
Yeah, I got the picture.
Okay, so what was rock, paper, and scissors?
Scissors is 0, rock is 1, and paper is 2.
Print it here.
I'd print it above before you get the user input. You can worry about making it look, prettier later. So scissors is 0.
Did you say rock was 1?
Yes, rock is 1.
That's good enough. You can make it look fancier afterwards.
Okay.
So you get the user input.
Here.
Yeah, no, you already got it. So what
Okay.
remains now is for you to do what? What remains is for you to
Compare
use
the numbers.
if-else's, yeah, to compare. What if and so y'all think about that as a group. I'm going to go visit another group, but think about, and it's because you're not using and ors. So think about how you're going to test, you're going to if one thing, and then within that if, you're going to do another test. And then you're going to do an elif, and within that elif, you have another set of tests. Think about the logic there. Just everyone talk together. Mariam, Sean, Farha. Think about how you might make that happen.
So would you do like if 0?
So is that a piano lesson, Rebecca?
Oh, that's my sister.
Okay. No, it's okay. The noise is perfectly fine. Noise is perfectly fine. I just, it didn't sound like it sounded like, yeah, someone practicing or at a piano lesson.
Yeah, that's my sister.
So everyone else in the room, are we okay in what's going on with the code? Jonathan?
Yes.
So really, and once she does this first, once she gets this final else, then you'll just be able to copy paste lines 9 through 14 for the other user number options.
Okay.
And then just edit stuff accordingly. Cool, y'all are on the right path, so that's good. Are we missing some options? What do we have here?
This is what determines if who's victorious.
Sure, I'm just trying, can I see at the top?
Yeah, so we get import random. Please enter rock, paper, scissors 0, 1, 2. Then we determine randomly what the computer is.
Sure.
And the very first thing is if they're the same, it's a draw. Then we check if the player picked rock, if computer picked what beats it, then it wins, else player wins. And obviously, if they didn't pick rock, none of those options would
Gotcha.
shoot.
No, because I was
And
thinking
then-
there would be 3 options each, but I see how you did draw right at the beginning just to knock that out, which was smart.
Yeah, we did draw at the beginning. At the very bottom, we did fine, I will play with myself, com wins.
Nice.
For
Cool.
if they entered any other number. I'm just
Cool.
trying to fill in the filler
Yeah,
right
absolutely.
now.
Absolutely. Go ahead. I'll let y'all keep going. You're clearly on the right track.
All right. So where was I?
Chose 2.
So y'all figured it out. So you see what's going on? That you're saying if the computer generated number is a 0, well, there's 3 possible things that the user can be, right?
Yes.
And let me encourage you to, on lines 6 through 11, make that an elif. So if the user is a 1, elif it's a 2, else if it's a 0. And something that is a common mistake, though, is as well, make sure you get your 2 equal signs.
Oh,
And of course, on the else, you can just put a colon right here. And yep, I'll tell you what I do as a programmer before you erase this user 0. What I personally do is I put a colon and then I put a comment before the word user. I still keep the logic of what was there just so you can see it, if that makes sense. It's just good programming practice. Watch, put your colon after else right here. And
Let me
then
just
put a
do that.
space and put a comment. Yeah, just so imagine if you had a huge program with all of that was represented over 8,000 lines of code. Well, when you get to this else, you'd be asking yourself, what does it logically represent? Well, if you put it there, then you know, right? Like what option
Right.
does this else represent? So I have a feeling we're going to get kicked out of this Zoom session really soon. It's not showing me a timer because we're in breakout rooms. So if you pardon me, I'm going to bring us back to the main room real quick, but y'all can keep coding.
Okay.
Yep, I brought us back here to the main room because I wanted to be able to see, y'all weren't done working. Most of y'all were actually all 3 groups were on the right track, but I can't see the time. And I did not want it to end the meeting so abruptly. Do any of y'all see the time? Do you have a timer that you can see that I can't see? Normally it shows a time and it's not at the moment. And I did not want it to end abruptly. Ibrahim, in your group, who was doing the code? Was it David?
Yes.
David, can you show your screen?
Yeah, sure. 1 second. Says I can't while you are.
Oh yeah, of course, sure. Go ahead.
All right, 1 moment. So I import random at first. I determine what the player 1 gives, determine a random integer between 0 and 2, and then we compared. And I decided to knock draw right off the bat because if that was the case, then it's all over. Then there was a lot of if nested if else's, determining if you pick this, if computer was this or this, what happens. And we did that for rock, paper, and scissors for all possible outcomes. And if you decided not to put 0, 1, or 2, com just wins because you decided not to play. And an example of it running, let's go scissors, draw. All right. Hey, I won. Is he muted?
Yeah, sorry about that. I stopped share. Rebecca, I said nicely done. Rebecca, can you share yours as well? I don't know if we can hear. The other group, that was Ibrahim's group. Then we had the Chloe group, which y'all were almost done. Who was the other group? Was it Rebecca's group? Give me feedback, one of you. Can y'all hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
I can hear you.
Rebecca, are you with us? Okay, maybe she walked away. Because Rebecca's group, I think she was the one that was coding it, and they had a typical solution as well. So Chloe, can we see yours? I think you're probably almost done anyway. So this is what I would have expected many groups to come up with, where you just check, hey, let's look at the computer number. It's a 0. And if it's a 0, then let's look at the 3 possible choices for the user. The user could have done a 0, a 1, or a 2. Else, if the computer generated number was a 1, let's now look at the user choices, which could have been a 0, a 1, or a 2. Or finally, if you scroll down, else, if the computer number was a 2, the user could have again had a 1, a 0, or a 2. And just printing all of those different possibilities. So we had 9 different possibilities to print up. And yeah, this is pretty straightforward, nicely done as well. So this covers all of that material. If you allow me, let me come back. You know, they're not giving me a timer, and it's frustrating because sometimes Zoom times the session, other times it doesn't. So we don't have much more time anyway, but let's just see where we are. Can y'all see my screen?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah.
I wanted to get
You're
ahead.
at 39 minutes.
We are. So how do you see that? Who said this?
Becca, sorry, my computer is glitching, so I couldn't see the thing, so
Yeah.
I couldn't share my screen. But in the Slack, it has a Zoom meeting for the link. It says started 39 minutes ago.
Okay, cool. Well, you know what? It's about to kick us out then. I really wanted to get to the logical operators today, but I don't want to oppress anyone. And so we might just need to wait until Tuesday for that. Unless y'all want to do, are y'all open for 10 more minutes? Put a thumbs up if you want 10 more minutes. And if you don't, that's perfectly fine. Some of us are busy. I see 3 thumbs. So that's, well, now I'm getting more thumbs. There's no peer pressure because some of us need to go. So I still have only